Welcome back to another episode. In this lesson, we're going to be doing a Q&A on stabilizing properties. These are questions that come directly from my team. Some of them might be questions that we received in the comments. Anyways, we're going to jump right into it with the first question. Would you rather acquire a stabilized property or a vacant one? So I would personally never buy a stabilized property unless the cap rate was insane, okay? And because of that, I'm never going to be competitive buying a stabilized property because there's always going to be somebody that wants a stabilized property, doesn't want the headache. They want to buy an existing building, they want to park their money there, and they just want to collect the rent every single month. And because of that comfort, they end up paying a premium for the property because there's nothing for them to do. Okay, that's not the type of investor I am. I want to buy buildings that are vacant. I want to buy buildings that have leases coming up for renewal soon. I want to buy buildings that have extra land for development. I want to buy these type of assets because then when I find the tenants, then I'm substantially increasing the value of the property. And then I'll sell my stabilized property to somebody who wants to buy stabilized properties, and I'll charge a premium for those properties. So what negotiation tactics are effective to use when increasing rents of existing tenants? Is it usually easier to just kick them out? It's never easier to kick tenants out. If you kick a tenant out, now you have to hold the building vacant. You have to market the property. You have to pay leasing commissions. You have to pay potentially tenant improvements. Okay, so you have to do all these things and you have all these extra expenses, and it's uncertain when you're going to find a tenant to occupy that space and how much tenant improvements they're going to request. All these things make it a lot more challenging than if you would just renew the existing tenant at market rent. That's always the case. But then it begs the question of how likely is it that the existing tenant is going to pay double their amount of rent all of a sudden, because you're trying to renew their lease as a new owner. I mean, the way it works is that existing tenant is going to look around and he's going to see, okay, everybody else is asking the same market rent as this guy. Why would I go and take all my stuff, move to another location, disrupt my business, get all this moving costs, all this extra headache to end up paying the same market rent somewhere else that this guy is presenting to me? So that's why often what happens is the landlord and the tenant on renewals will kind of meet in the middle. I'll give that tenant a little bit of a discount to market rent, and in return, he'll renew with me long term. Okay, so he's getting cheaper than he could get elsewhere, and he's saving all the costs on moving and all that. And I'm leasing it a bit cheaper than I could get from somebody else, but I don't have leasing commissions and all these other things. Okay, that's usually what happens. If you're a very aggressive landlord, sometimes you'll say, I want market rent or even a bit above market rent. And if you don't want it, I'm going to go release it. And even though they're incurring all these extra costs, the reason why they would do that is because when they go refinance, it's based on their NOI. So even if they have an extra, 200K, 500K in holding costs and leasing commissions and all that, the increase in the NOI that they get from that tenant that pays a premium to market ends up being the equivalent of, let's say, $2 million of extra value to the property. For us personally, for our strategy, I'd prefer not kicking out a tenant. I'd prefer not holding it vacant. I'm not that aggressive. I'd prefer coming to a deal with an existing tenant, and if he pays a little bit less than what I could get on the market, I'd take that any day. How long is too long of a waiting period to stabilize an asset? It depends your investment strategy. It depends how quickly you need your cash back. It depends on your underwriting. Okay, and I'll give you an example. Okay, so let's say I'm buying a property for $100 a foot when the market is $200 a foot. So I'm buying it for half the value of market, right? I'm getting a discount of 50% to market value. You'd think 100% buy this asset. But then what if I told you that there's a 20-year lease and the guy's paying $3 a foot net when the market rent is $15 a foot net? I'm going to incur massive losses over that 20-year period. And in the end, when that lease is up, I have to add that all into my all-in cost of this acquisition and see my all-in cost might be $225 a foot. So it's not worth it. But another scenario is that same thing. I'm buying it for $100 a foot. It's actually worth $200 a foot, but I have a tenant there for 10 years paying $850 net. Then maybe when I do my underwriting, it makes sense. Maybe my losses are 100K a year, but at the end of 10 years, I could sell it for double the price. And after factoring in the loss of $1 million over 10 years or 500K over 5 years, it makes sense still. See what I mean? So it depends your underwriting. But then even if the underwriting makes sense, buying it for a discount today because the leases suck and holding it until the leases expire and then selling it, even if the math makes sense, for a lot of investors, they don't like that because they want their cash out quickly. Here, their cash is tied up in the deal for the next 5-10 years. A lot of people don't like that. For us, I'm in the same boat. We don't want our cash stuck there for 5-10 years. But it's not to say that we would never do that. It's just to say that it's unlikely that somebody sells their building for a massive discount because they have shitty leases. Those guys end up never selling. selling. And then the guys that want to sell and they understand that the value of the property is way less because of the shitty lease that they have, I'll consider acquiring that property because he's being realistic with the price. But again, it would have to be such a massive discount to the market value because my cash is stuck in there for so long and I have to take that into consideration. The longer my cash sits in the deal, the less profitable it is for me because there's an opportunity cost of that capital being used elsewhere. If I could buy another deal that makes me less money, but I get my cash back after a year, then I made all that money. Now I have my cash back to redeploy right away. So in this case, I have to consider what's the opportunity cost of me not being able to access that cash for, let's say, 5 to 10 years. So I would say for me personally, 5 years is like max. And even then that's very long. But oftentimes, it doesn't even matter what my opinion is on this because usually the only people that have realistic selling prices are the people that have vacant buildings or that have leases coming for renewal in the short term, or when they're owner operators and they want to do a lease back. In that case, with a lease back, I'm stabilizing the property on day one. So again, this doesn't even come into play. What are the factors you take into consideration for a property that takes 2, 3, 4 years to stabilize? I think I already answered that in the previous answer, but I'll try to elaborate a bit further. If it's 2 years left, I'll be more aggressive on the price. Every additional year after 2 years, I have to apply a discount to the price because I'm holding it at a loss for additional years. I'm comfortable holding a building almost vacant for let's say 2 years because the math will always kind of make sense as long as you get the price of the asset at a decent price, okay? When you start having to hold a property for 3, 4, 5 years with under market rents, then it starts to wreck your pro forma completely. If it's only 2 years, let's say, I stabilize it after 2 years and then I pull my cash out after 2 years. So not a big deal, right? Because if I could pull my cash out in 2 years and the numbers still make sense holding it for a loss for those 2 years, then it's not that big of a deal. But if I only pull my cash out after 3, 4, 5 years, that's when it starts to become less attractive because I could find another asset where I could pull my cash out quicker. So it's all about how quickly you could pull your cash out essentially, and then working backwards to determine a price and then just factoring in the losses that you're incurring because you have under market rent. What is your preferred hold period for a stabilized property? So my preferred hold period for a stabilized property is forever. If I sign a good tenant long-term at market rent with rent bumps so that every year it's going up by inflation, let's say, or 3% or something, then I want to hold that thing forever, And if somebody approaches me to buy that asset, I'm going to ask for a massive premium on it because there's nothing for me to do. I'm literally just collecting rents. Now, if I had another deal that I wanted to buy and I needed the funds from that sale to take place to invest somewhere else, then yes, I would sell it for a more reasonable price. Or if I couldn't refinance it and I couldn't get the good loan terms that I want, then maybe I'd sell it for a better price. Or if I was retiring, I'd sell it for a better price. Or if I was, getting out of the industry and I didn't want to manage the property, maybe I'd sell it for a better price. But for us right now, we're very active, trying to buy new things. We're in the prime of our career to be making acquisitions. So anything I have, if I don't need to sell and it's stabilized, I'm holding it forever. Thank you very much. Please subscribe, like, share, hit the bell icon to be notified when we release new episodes just like this one. And hope you enjoyed. If you like this format, Q&A style, leave a comment down below letting us know. I wanted to let you know that we're trying to acquire multi-tenant industrial buildings for warehousing and distribution. If you have anything similar to this for sale, let's say you're a broker or you're an owner, or even if you have a friend that has this type of asset for sale, click the link in the description down below. Let us know and a team member will reach out right away and we'll get an offer to you ASAP. We're actively looking to acquire these type of assets and we're being very aggressive on the prices that we're offering. Thank you very much. Love you.